Hey guys, it's Captain Forest here, and today I'm back with a cross-verse matchup, Marvel vs DC. I'm going to be going over both combatants, Captainmarvel versus Starfire. I'll briefly go over both combatants, and then I will break this fight down to see who would win more often than not in this fight. This style of video will be a gauntlet. I'll be going over Post-Crisis, New 52, and Rebirth Starfire. Before I continue, if you guys enjoy my content and enjoy videos like this, please consider subscribing to the channel, leaving a like and commenting down below. Also, shoutouts to the coffee shop gang, they make awesome content. Shoutouts to Splash, shoutouts to everyone else, their link shall be in the description. Also, a huge shout out to my boy Korin O'Keefe. He helped a lot in this video with some of the scaling, so I appreciate that. But anyway, let's get right down to the meat and potatoes of things. So, I'll start off with Carol. So in terms of attack potency, she scales and is relative to characters like King Thor, She-Hulk, and Hyperion, who all have at least for the low ends of multiversal plus to high hyperversal plus to low outerversal scaling. We've seen Thor and the help of 3 other Thors hold back the collapse of countless dimensions / universe. Depending on how you scale Marvel, this feat would range around multiversal plus to the low ends at least, to high hyperversal plus to low outer. Thor has consistently shown to hurt and damage characters like the Hulk. The Hulk himself was able to channel the power of 2 universes within himself. And if we look at how the basic cosmology of Marvel works, a singular universe has infinite realities inside of it. This is stated by Atu, the Watcher himself, who watches all over realities. What I've said about universes would also apply to the infinite uncountable higher dimensions. Infinity stacked on top of infinite and infinite amount of times. It's always expanding and increasing greater infinitely. Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, issue 21, talks about these things called Alephs, which is basically just one set of infinity, and then on to the next set of infinity. Now going more in depth, Aleph 0 in simple terms is countable infinite. Aleph 1 starts the first uncountably infinite. The gap between Aleph 0 and 1 is inaccessible. This goes for 1 to 2 as well, and so on. Aleph 0 would equate to high hyperversal. This would be the infinity of universes. While the multiverse itself is an Aleph transfinite number larger than infinity of universes Aleph 1. Aleph 1 would equate to high hyperversal plus or low outerversal, depending on which tiering system you use. So depending on your interpretation, you can get King Thor himself and other Herald tiers pretty high up there in AP. She-Hulk has been able to damage the likes of World War Hulk, and Hulk himself has hurt characters like Thor and Hyperion, and Carol has also hurt Hyperion, who he himself tanked and survived the collapse of 2 universes. And as mentioned above on how universes work in Marvel, and in fact the universes are high hyperversal structures, and this feat is pretty similar to Thor's own feat. So easily Carol is around high hyperversal plus, or if you use low ends, she's easily like multi plus, very high into it. So that's going to round up her AP. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some other things. So for speed, now this part of the video, speed's going to be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to talk about speed as I break down how the fight will turn out. So I'll leave that for last. So moving on to Carol's abilities. So one of Carol's main bread and butter abilities is her energy absorption / energy nullification. Captainmarvel's well-known ability to absorb any energy-based attack or any energy source in nature, which amplifies her powers. When she absorbs energy, she can enter into a binary form. She's also demonstrated that she can also activate her binary form without the need of absorbing energy, which is very impressive. Carol demonstrates the ability to absorb reality warping energy, so she has some reality warping energy absorption, which is very impressive. Carol has also absorbed energy from the Phoenix Force, which is also an impressive feat too. And during her fight with Thor, Carol has demonstrated on a good number of occasions to absorb his lightning blasts. This is also impressive because Thor is an elemental archetype and the gods in Marvel are fundamental, easily showing that Carol can absorb conceptual energy. Carol can absorb the kinetic energy from physical attacks, and overall she's demonstrated that she can absorb lightning, anything energy based in nature. She can absorb subatomic particles, she can absorb radiation, and she can absorb ionic energy, sound. So moving on, I'm going to talk about some of her impressive noteworthy abilities and showings with her binary form. Carol essentially has a near limitless supply of energy while in her binary form. Carol in her binary form absorbs all energy around her and drew energy around the world for her to absorb. When Carol Danvers absorbs the energy, she can release it back her opponents with a 10 times amplification, more than it originally was, which is very impressive. Now moving on, the main use of her ability comes from her Photon Blasts, which she can channel through her fists or shoot them from her hands. Her Photon Blasts also vaporize you on an atomic to subatomic level. Carol has also demonstrated proficiency with her Photon Blasts, so she can fire with pinpoint accuracy. She can also shoot photonic lasers from her eyes as well. Carol has also demonstrated that her Photon Blasts can transmutate and turn you to crystal. Now, moving on to some of her other abilities. So Carol has instinctive reaction and precognition. It's noted that Carol's precognition and cosmic awareness is better than Marvel's itself. Both Captainmarvel and of course Marvel have the same powers and have demonstrated this in combat situations. It's also been shown and demonstrated by Marvel that it is a near impossibility to ambush him, as it greatly increases his fighting skill, and with his cosmic awareness he was able to see Thor's attack through 17,000 dimensional perception streams, and Carol's cosmic awareness is potent enough to sense changes occurring within the outside, which the outside is a high outerversal distance, which is absolutely insane. So she has high outerversal cosmic awareness, she has really good precognition, she's also demonstrated precognition feats in combat. She's able to precog a goon who was going to shoot her from behind, and she was also able to precog a room going to explode, allowing her to stay steps ahead. And in character, one last thing, she also demonstrates that she likes to finish the fight quick. She doesn't like to mess around. She's a Kree warrior by nature, which allows her to fight instinctively, and she fights pretty quickly too. And that's going to round up Carol. I'm going to go ahead and talk about Post-Crisis, New 52, and Rebirth Starfire. So I'm going to go over some of the things for Starfire's AP. So starting off with Post-Crisis, Starfire should easily be around the ranges of low multiversal plus to multiversal plus. Now, in order for us to understand why she scales around these levels, I need to go over some things. So the universes in DC are fourth dimensional. Fourth dimensional is what you would need in order to be universal plus, or low multiversal, or multiversal plus. Yeah, infinitely large 3D spacetime would only be high universal, going off versus Battle Wiki tiering system. Just because the totality of a universe has that many dimensions, that doesn't inherently mean a character destroying the universe would scale to that totality, as they may just be destroying the physical matter or the normal space-time within the universe, and not every higher plane of reality. So there would need to be clear showings or evidence to suggest why those universes are 4D in order for it to be universal plus. Otherwise, just destroying time and space would only be high universal. This is why context matters in a lot of these types of situations when it comes to dimensional tiering. It's also been demonstrated and shown in a debate about time not being 4D, and there were experiments and demonstrations to prove this. I will leave a link in the description about this, which goes into more detail about why time is not 4D. Now, it's been shown that universes in DC are easily fourth dimensional. For example, there are other universes and dimensions existing within universes which essentially confirms that universes in DC have more than just 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension, easily making them full-on 4th dimensional structures, which is greater than a universe that only contains 3 spatial dimensions and 1 temporal dimension of time. So, what does this mean for the feat that the 2 Supermen performed? Well, it means they performed a feat that's on a low multiversal scale, as low multiversal requires a character to destroy, create, and / or completely affect 2 up to 1,000 4D universes. Another thing which also supports 4D is that the Green Lantern rings themselves are extra dimensional, which the low multiversal feat alone would help support that the Green Lantern's power sources are 4D bare minimum. We've seen Wonder Woman hurt Green Lanterns and break through their constructs. Starfire herself has fought against Wonder Woman on a couple of occasions and has been able to take attacks and also been able to deal damage to Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman herself has hurt Superman on many occasions because Superman himself has good low multiversal plus feats, such as pre-crisis Superman is comparable to Harbinger's clone, who merged Earth X, Earth 4 and Earth S into the Neververse to save them from the antimatter's wave. Now, as I mentioned, the feat with the 2 Superman from before, in fact, can actually be scaled a lot higher. If you look at the context of the feat, you could easily actually get this feat of both Supermen affecting the full-on 11th dimensional structure in the context to high complex multiversal plus. The pre-crisis stuff I posted definitely doesn't scale to 11th dimensional space-time, which would equate to high complex multiversal plus. There are more multiversal plus feats, such as Superman going up against Dominus, who has control over an infinite multiverse. Superboy, who's literally a way weaker Superman, damaged him and tank attacks from him. So overall, this in turn with the chain scaling would put Starfire in the respective ballpark of low multiversal plus to multiversal plus, if not high complex multiversal plus. Now, Starfire doesn't fully scale to Superman, but she is definitely in the respective ballpark of AP. Now, that's going to conclude Post-Crisis. I'm going to go ahead and talk about New 52. So New 52 Starfire, unfortunately, she lacks really any good AP showings compared to her post-crisis self. There is a statement she makes where she is almost as strong as Superman, but as shown on 2 occasions that Starfire's starbolts do absolutely nothing to Superman and was extremely casual. Regardless, Starfire demonstrates a lot of impressive abilities during her New 52 run, which I will explore after I go over Rebirth Starfire. So unfortunately, her AP just isn't up to par. She does have some AP scaling, but it's just not worth mentioning. Okay, finally, this is where we see some really good impressive showings for Rebirth Starfire. In Death Metal Bat, Starfire matched Ultraviolet Sinestro, and Martian Manhunter also did the same exact thing with the same Sinestro, showing that Starfire is in a similar ballpark with Martian Manhunter. UV Sinestro was able to damage Superman. This same Superman one-shots the World Forger, who has 2 transcendences into high outerversal. Starfire's starbolts were also able to burn through Jessica's battery, and Jessica herself was struggling to maintain her own Green Lantern construct. This same Jessica was able to physically hurt Darkseid, who was at full power, and Starfire was also able to damage a weakened Darkseid to add on some more consistency. And Darkseid himself in fact notes that Starfire is the fire of creation on 2 occasions, so easily some platonic scaling right there, pretty crazy. So easily, like, Starfire is in the high outer versal ranges of AP. So that's going to round up Starfire's AP. I'm going to go ahead and talk about some of Starfire's abilities. So Starfire's main go-to in combat is her star bolts. She can shoot them with pinpoint accuracy. Her star bolts can atomize you on an atomic level, and her star bolts can affect you spiritually. Starfire has demonstrated to imbue her starbolt energy inside her foe's body, vaporizing their insides completely. And Starfire can also create a giant area of effect with her starbolt energy, and also flash fry her foes with her starbolts. Starfire can increase the temperature of her body, and can also set her hair on fire, and can burn and melt objects upon contact. She can also use telekinesis, and can also seal you inside a telekinetic ball of energy. And Starfire can also draw upon and absorb energy from the sun and any other energy sources. So that's going to round up Starfire's abilities. I'm going to go ahead and break this fight down. Okay, so let's talk about this fight. So now I'm going to have to talk about speed before I get right into the juicy stuff. So speed for both combatants. Both Carol and Starfire should be relative to some degree, as they both have immeasurable speed. Carol has some immeasurable speed scaling, such as reacting to Thor, who can tag Silver Surfer, who can time travel with his raw speed alone. Carol was also able to move inside limbo, which is around beyond time and space, and beyond the laws of nature, and a lot of other characters are able to move inside limbo. It's demonstrated that they all can move inside limbo, which solidifies the speed scaling for Carol. However, Starfire is higher in the speed department. She's higher into immeasurable speed. The immeasurable speed showings are more impressive for DC, as Starfire downscales to a lot of characters like Superman, who can invade and outpace reality blitzing missiles. Flash is fast enough to blitz Hal Jordan, who flew to the future without his lantern and can travel and a timeless distanceless barrier in an instant. Wally West was able to run to the 853rd century, and Aquaman can swim in the secret sea, which transcends space and time. Professor Zoom can move through multiple temporal dimensions. If we're going to be quite frank here, in all honesty, for speed, you could argue that some of these speed feats that I just mentioned can arguably argue to be irrelevant speed. So in terms of speed, I edge out with Starfire. However, Carol's high outer versal cosmic awareness and precognition will help her somewhat bridge the gap in speed. Now that speed is established in this round, let's continue. So in terms of attack potency, I would have to award this to Carol for the first round. Her high hyperversal plus scaling is vastly above post-crisis Starfire's low multiversal plus to multiversal plus scaling. Now in character, Starfire starts off with throwing starbolts at her foe. Now this is where things turn very sour for Starfire. Carol's energy absorption abilities will absorb her starbolts, but wait a minute, what about the spiritual aspect of the starbolts? What does Carol have against that? In fact, Carol has tanked and absorbed Hellfire before from Ghost Rider, and this same Hellfire turns your soul to ash. Carol can also absorb subatomic particles, as she would naturally have a resistance to subatomic destruction. So Carol would be able to absorb the subatomic particles from the starbolts very casually, dissipating them, and of course allowing her to get stronger and even enter into binary form. This, at this point, will annoy Carol. Carol will retaliate and fire back a Photon Blast at Starfire, vaporizing her. Now, granted, Starfire does have the speed and would be able to get a hit off at least, but ultimately, because of the precognition, which would help Carol in this fight, especially her cosmic awareness, her high outer cosmic awareness, this would help Carol be able to at least detect and be able to precog and know what Starfire is going to do before it happens, and Starfire herself is tremendously outclassed by Carol's physical AP and abilities, and even if Starfire gets up close to punch Carol, because of standard battle assumptions, both combatants will not know how strong each other are, so Starfire could go in hurting herself trying to punch Carol, and in fact, because Carol can absorb impact from attacks, Carol will be able to absorb the attack, which would amp her, and in fact this would give Carol the opening to take victory and one shot. So more often than not, I'd have to lean more so to Captainmarvel over post-Crisis / New 52 Starfire, as established New 52 has like really no good AP scaling, which is not nowhere near like Carol's tier. Even if you was to use the weird statement which is contradicted, it does not stack up to high hyperversal plus scaling. So in the first round and the second round, Carol just overpowers Starfire pretty easily in the AP department. Now for the last round, let's go over Rebirth Starfire. So in terms of AP, I'd have to give it to Rebirth Starfire more often than not. Her high outer versal scaling is vastly above Carol's pay grade of AP of high hyperversal plus, even if you argue low outer versal. It's just not enough AP to contend with Rebirth Starfire's AP. Now for speed, again, I lean more so to Starfire. This version of Starfire should easily scale higher in speed, especially when she fought against UV Sinestro, who tagged and damaged Superman. So in this combat situation, this is where things go south for Carol in the final round. None of Carol's abilities will be able to help her against such a massive AP and speed disadvantage. So being truthfully honest, despite the precognition and cosmic awareness, it's not going to change much, as Starfire would just rush in and one-shot via a Starbolt or a punch to the face. Carol wouldn't have the Hack's potency to absorb Starfire's Starbolt, since the AP is an issue and would simply be way too much for Carol to deal with, and in fact this would just vaporize Carol. So I give the final round to Rebirth Starfire more often than not. Better AP, better speed, and just has better stats. So anyway, overall I have to give pretty much this fight more often than not to Carol overall, going off the gauntlet list. So yeah, she beat like Starfire in round 1 and 2, but the final round Carol unfortunately gets defeated. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please remember to leave a like, comment down below. Feedback is always nice to hear. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. But yes, I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Check out the channels. It's been real. Peace.